So I'm going to talk about why is it important to engage parents in playing with their children as part of brain building, but also to support children in their early learning. So I hope we have had some presentation in the morning on the importance of plays in brain building, but also in supporting children in early learning. And I do hope we all had an opportunity to reflect on our childhood experience, but also I would like all of us to reflect on 2 or 3 points. First, we need to ask ourselves, did we had much time and enough time to play with our parents as we wished on our early stage of development? But also we need to reflect as parents, how are we going to create more space? How are we going to create more time play with our children as part of building brain of our children, but also to support children in early learning. So my presentation will be focusing on plays and specifically parents playing with their children. So I'll also share experience from Tunakujenga, which we have seen the video. And basically, Tunakujenga is a project which was designed and piloted in Nyarugusu refugee camps. And the reason why we designed Tunakujenga was based on the gaps that we assessed in the refugee camps where parents had a very little time they spent with their children, playing with them, but also supporting them in the early learning. So Tunakujenga was really encouraging parents in the refugee setting to have more time, to have more space to play with their children as part of building the brains of children, but also to support children in early learning. But also we were encouraging parents to use the available play kits in the environment in the refugee setting. And also we are trying to encourage parents to integrate plays in their normal and their daily activities. So Tunakujenga brought parents together through Tunakujenga clubs, and we used Tunakujenga toolkits to impart knowledge on how can they use play mechanism in building brain of children, but also how can they support children in early learning through the use of plays. And Tunakujenga was only piloted for 3 months, but we had some insights and some of the learning from the parents from the Tunakujenga project. And one of the learning was parents and mothers specifically are the first teachers of the kids. So mothers were very proud and they really appreciate to be the first teachers of their kids, but yet they don't hear enough in the community, the role they play in supporting children in early learning. But also we have some learning from children themselves. They were really requesting to have more time to play with their parents. And on average, children were requesting to play with their parents at least 5 times a week. But also, we had some of the insights that parents really appreciate and value the time they use to play with their children, and they really see the impact of plays in building the brain of their children, but also in helping children in early learning. So when we were piloting the project, we encountered some of the challenges to encourage parents to play with their children. And one of the challenges was on time and priority. So parents shared experience like playing with their children, it's not a priority for them, and they think they need to be busy looking for basics for their children, and playing is regarded as the duty of grandparents, but also siblings. And another challenge was on the issue of tailored training. So parents thought like playing is the duty of teachers who are well trained on how to play with children. And for them to play with their kids, they need like tailored training to be more effective. But another issue was on embarrassment. So parents were really fearing if they fall when playing with kids, that is really embarrassing. So they were afraid to have more time, to have more space to play with their kids because they might be embarrassed. But also we had the issue of power dynamics. So parents were sharing like, if they spend much time to play with their children, then it will be hard for them to discipline children in case of any misbehavior because they will be very close to their kids and the kids may start misbehaving and they won't listen to the parents. But also, we had some insights from the pilot phase where parents, as I've shared before, they really value the time they spend with their children in plays, but they also really shared the experience of the impact of plays in learning, in early learning specifically with their child, but also parents were sharing like now they are much closer with their children compared as when Tunakujenga was not implemented. So they really appreciate the project, and it gives them the opportunity to be more closer and to have more attachment with their children. But they also shared like Tunakujenga was also a real good mechanism in preventing and responding to child abuse. After Tunakujenga, children were very close to their parents, so they could easily share whatever challenges they are facing in the community, and that gives also the opportunity for the parents to respond and also to support children. And also, children were also sharing their experience, and they really appreciate they had more time to play with their parents, but also they were supported in various activities like homeworks. They had more time to play with their parents, and some of them were sharing like they had more stories with their parents, but they were also had time like to read books together at home, which was not a practice before. And also, we had learned like parents have some techniques, they have skills in social-emotional learning, but it's not a habit for them to play with their children, and also they don't know how can they transfer the skills through plays. So, as a call, I think we have also had in the morning that play is very important in brain development, but also is very important to support children during their early stage of learning. So I would like to call to all parents in here to create more space, to create more time to play with their children. And we also need to take plays that we are just building the brain of our children, but also we are supporting children to learn, and also we are encouraging children to learn, to love learning. So that is my call for now. And I think although Tunakujenga was piloted in the refugee settings, but it can be applied in any context. Thank you for listening.
A, B, C, yeah!
So does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask?
Thank you so much for a brief presentation, very insightful. I just wanted to learn more on the kind of plays that children used to play, and whether those plays were safe enough to make sure that they are not harmed. The second point is that to what extent are the parents actually focusing much on playing with their children with the specific goal of achieving a certain kind of function, like I want my child to communicate more, or to build its muscles, or to do something else. So to what extent were parents? And the third question is that what is your experience of fathers and mothers in terms of supporting their children playing? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. I think I'll start with the second question, where you asked like, to what extent the parents were able to use the plays with the goal of learning. As I've said, we designed the toolkit, which is known to Tunakujenga toolkit. So we had like a tailored or structured training where we brought parents together in Tunakujenga clubs, where they were impacted skills on how can they use plays at the same time having a goal of supporting children to learn. But also the type of toolkits that were used, they are normal things that are found in their respective communities. For instance, you have seen in the video, you can just use food to make children learn. Like you're grouping the foods in different groups, and you are telling children that this group is respective for this, so it's easy for children to remember. But you can also use, like we said, sticks or colors that are found in our normal environment to teach children on how can they learn on things. So the materials or toolkits that were used during the learning are not harmful to children, but they are also child-friendly, and they help more children to remember because they're using things that are normal in their usual life, but the toolkit that they use to play in their daily activities. Sorry, the last question was?
Support of children. To what extent were fathers and mothers supporting their children play?
Okay. So Tunakujenga first was designed and targeting mothers only. So we targeted mothers, so we had mother clubs, but at the same time, we were trying to encourage and insist with the mothers to share the knowledge and skills with their spouse. And if you have seen in the video, but also we have some of the learning and outcomes of the project, fathers were also much engaged in plays. So after Tunakujenga, we did like a simple assessment where we found that even fathers are much involved in playing with their children. But also in the refugee setting, as I've said, lifestyle is quite different from where we are. So parents, they're not that busy because most of them are not working, and if they're working, just for a few hours. So they have more time to play with their kids. But because that was not a habit, and also they did not know how can they use plays in brain development, that was a challenge. But after Tunakujenga, most of them were very interested, and they were really using and created more space and time to play with their children because also they saw the impact of plays in early learning.
Just a follow-up question from what my colleague have asked. On the involvement, my concern is on the involvement of fathers. We know that, especially in taking care, responsive care, most of the time we only target mothers and we forget the role of the father in child care. I'm happy that you said the father came in after seeing the mothers that are praying with their children, but they were not the target. Now, just like a call, are you also planning to involve more men, especially on training, so that they can understand? Because if they are not part of the training and then they are not involved since the beginning, they can be praying just for fun and not knowing the importance of it, how to stimulate their children.
Thank you, Alinune, for your question. And I think, as I've said, that was a pilot project. So we designed the project and they wanted to see if the project has really impact and if we can scale up. So after having those learnings, we are planning to scale up the project and to involve more men. But also we have our parenting program, which is targeting both women and men in the refugee camps. So in our parenting session, we are also trying to integrate some of the components of Tunakujenga to encourage also fathers to play a role in helping children in their early learning stage.
Hi, my name is Tom from Kenya. I wanted to understand maybe better the perspective of what lessons we can also learn from Kenya, especially like we see most parents are very busy in the city and they'll always leave their children with their house manager. We normally call them boch in Swahili, but we call them house managers. So maybe perhaps how can they also be involved in a way that they can also be innovative in how they are left with kids, because they're left with kids most of the day? How can they be assisted to also be innovative in how they play with kids at home when parents are not there?
As I've said, one of the challenges in implementing Tunakujenga is time and priority for parents. And I think that challenge also exists among ourselves, but also in the urban areas especially. Given the lifestyle that we are having, we have very limited time. So my call was for all parents first to see the importance of playing with children as part of brain development, but also in supporting children in the early learning. So if parents are ready and see the importance of it, then I'm sure you can impart the knowledge to any helpers who are supporting taking care of our children. So it's first it starts with parents. So if we see the value of it, then I think, because we're just using the normal plays that are integrated in our daily activities.
Thank you for your talk. I wanted to ask you about a question that we've sometimes faced when working with refugee communities, which is that people ask, why are you worried about playing with these children, teaching them through play when children need shelter and they need food and we should just be concentrating on their basic needs? How do you respond to questions like this, and how do you prioritize play and its importance when you have all these other factors to consider for vulnerable children?
Thank you for your question. I think, as I've said, first we need to understand the importance of plays in brain development, but also in early learning. What you are saying is really the fact. Even in refugee camps, life is taken very serious. People are busy with WASH program, education program, health program, but yet in the refugee community, we see like the community is really valuing entertainment, and they are consuming them at home, but in groups, like watching videos, playing music, and yet we have like limited intervention that's using plays to impact knowledge and skills on things like learning and brain building. So as I've said, the project was piloted and we have got good results, and now we are looking forward to scale up, but also it's like a call to all organizations having intervention in the refugee settings that we can leverage or use the opportunity that people like entertainment to impact more skills and knowledge on building brain, but also on supporting children in early learning.